So, Tom, I thought we'd start with the by-election results.
Yeah, no kidding.
We all thought, I guess, it would be a whole lot closer. It turned out to be a bit of a cakewalk for
Yeah,
Quebec Solidaire. I want you to hear this clip, though, from Paul St. Pierre Plamondon of the PQ, who
sure.
did not do well here. And he seems more upset at Quebec Solidaire than anybody else. Listen to this.
Many Quebecers who witnessed the fact that they didn't speak a single time about the French language, about independence, noticed and were disappointed. So there's a strategy, I think, to become more liberal than the Liberals, to be able to beat the Liberals in Montreal.
Quebec Solidaire trying to be more liberal than the Liberals, Tom.
And he kept going on and on like that pretty well all day, as did the Péquistes. I mean, it was something that they had actually orchestrated in social media beginning last night. And it was so unseemly. I mean, come on. When you get like 11% of the vote, like breathe through the nose, Take it easy. You didn't do well, and it's not because the other one put out a few ads in English. By the way, he held back in his English comments on what his main French criticism was, and his main criticism in French was Quebec Solidaire was putting out ads in English during this campaign, don't you know? Isn't that terrible? So, I mean, it's one of those Quebec things. I don't think anybody else in the Western world would even understand what we're on about. But, the Parti Québécois has a grand total of 3 seats out of 125. They're very far from anywhere, comparing the status, which is full party status now for Quebec Solidaire. So it's a smashing victory for them at the same time as it's a crushing defeat for the Quebec Liberal Party. And you know that I got elected in a by-election federally for the first time in Outremont when we won an unlikely victory in a Liberal stronghold. And by-elections are occasions to send messages, and often people are just fed up, tired, and couldn't give a hoot. And I think that's what happened to a lot of the Liberal vote last night. The Quebec Solidaire team, through masterful planning and they had about 700 or 800 volunteers. They just got their vote out. They got almost as many votes last night as they did in the election in October, whereas the Liberals got like less than half of the votes out from last time. So people are discouraged. I've heard people talking about the departure of Marc Garneau, even though that's federally, it's this overarching feeling that the Liberal Party is a big letdown and one bleeds into the other. But I think the biggest problem the Liberals have, of course, is a lack of leadership. At the CAQ, you have a party with a leader. At Quebec Solidaire, you have a party with a leader. In the Parti Québécois, you have a leader with no party, and at the Liberals, you have a party with no leader. And I think that's the biggest problem the Liberals have. They've got to figure out whether or not they want this interim leader who might become the permanent leader. And I think it's such a mess. No other party would ever allow this situation to exist, and there was a huge mistake on the part of the Quebec Liberals.
The question, I think part of the question is, how long do you allow this sort of sore to fester before you actually do something about it?
Well, I am told, and I've been talking to people for the past few days, old people like me, who had been in that party for a long time and know its ins and outs. I'm told that really strong, former, very active people like of the caliber of former Premier Daniel Johnson and former interim leader Jean-Marc Fournier, I'm told that, they're being volunteers to come back into service to try to set things straight. The other thing that's worth noting is that the only party that has a provincial presence, the only party that has the experience, the expertise, and the wherewithal to actually run the province in the teams that are out there right now is the Liberal Party. Because, of course, the PQ can talk and huff and puff all they want. They've got a grand total of 3 seats, and they're on their way out. And so that's what's bugging them. They want to talk only about sovereignty, but Quebecers don't want to talk about sovereignty. By the way, that's something that François Legault has figured out. He brings in some sovereignists to try to show, no, I'm pretty much on your side. I'm a strong nationalist, but time ain't ripe for this. So, we're going to have to wait. I think that that's the biggest problem. The Liberals right now don't have any identity. They're not following any star, and nobody knows which way they're steering. Going back to Jean Charest, they started tacking more and more right wing. Same thing under Couillard. And now people who cared about social justice issues, people who cared about fairness in our society, people who really wanted to see positive progressive change, they're drifting over to Quebec Solidaire. Simple as that.
Tom, you got a name for who should head the Liberal Party, who would do something good for the party?
I think they've got to get somebody young and energetic, somebody who's got a decent track record in running something. It didn't work out with Dominique Anglade for a whole bunch of reasons, but I suspect that somewhere last night she had a half smile on her face as she watched the people who, shuffled her to the exit, completely failing in keeping one of the strongest and safest Liberal ridings on the island of Montreal.
So I didn't hear a name there,
Neither
though.
did I. You know, I was waiting for you to say
I don't
that.
know who that person is. I mean, I'm not going to. We're not there yet. But I think that it's a little bit like, it's a bizarre comparison. But we often talk about the difficulties that the English-speaking community has in Quebec right now. And, I talk to some of the old-timers, going back to Alliance Quebec days, and it's always the same half dozen people who have been in various groups over the years and pushed on various buttons. But none of them is going to get anything done because, frankly, it's not their generation that's going to have to live with the rest of this. It has to be, a much younger generation, people in their 30s, in their 40s, who are going to look at this situation and say, we've got to have a place for our community in Quebec. Same thing with the Quebec Liberal Party. There's such an incredible crop of young people right now in that Liberal caucus. I would dare say, especially the younger women in the Quebec Liberal caucus, but they're very reserved. They're taking their time coming out. They're learning the ropes, and at the same time, they're waiting to see where the chips are going to fall. I think that they're going to have to step up to the plate, by the way, and start very kindly explaining to Mark Tanguay, if you want to be the interim leader, you can continue being the interim leader on condition that you renounce any thought of running for the permanent leadership, because he's in a perpetual state of perception of conflict of interest. He just said we should do this. Is that to help his leadership or is it to help the party? And that's the conflict that has to be ended.
Tom, I'm going to say 2 words to you. You tell me what you think. This came up when we asked listeners earlier on today, who do you think that person should be to lead the Liberals, if you will, out of the forest? Sophie Brochu.
She'd be an absolutely unbelievable, amazing, extraordinary catch. To translate directly a great French-Canadian expression, I think they're dreaming in Technicolor if they think that they can get her, but she would be like a 5-star catch for the Liberals. No question about that, because she's relatively young. She's got an unbelievable managerial track record. She's personable. She's fluently bilingual, and she's one of the best administrators we've ever had in the province. So she would be an unbelievable catch. Oh, and by the way, my guess is that she might not mind taking on François Legault for a whole bunch of reasons.
And Pierre Fitzgibbon specifically, I bet. Listen, while we're talking about provincial politics, let's talk about Quebec Health Minister Christian Dubé and his very dramatic words, in 2 weeks, the columns of the temple will shake, talking about a huge shakeup coming in the healthcare system.
Well, I'm going to encourage him to shake the columns of the temple if it means something positive, in the sense that, okay, we've got these structures that we keep changing around every few years, and it's the same thing over and over again. And we need a completely different structure, which would mean getting rid of the ministry. So you could keep a shell ministry with people who are responsible for preparing legislation and the like that you would keep in Quebec City close to Parliament. But in Montreal, you'd have an agency that would be responsible for developing and delivering and overseeing health care for the whole province. I think that is absolutely the best idea. He's mused about it. I know what the gnomes in the health department will do. They'll pat their minister on the back and say, oh, this is so overdue. Thank goodness you're the one with the courage to do this. They'll try to get him to bring it in as long as they can control it. If they're still controlling it, it'll still be a disaster. So if it means that they're going to take their courage in both hands and say, okay, we're going to come up with some real money. We're going to change the working conditions of the key players who are, of course, first and foremost, the nurses, and they are the backbone of the health system, and the doctors as well, and come up with a new way of distributing things and a proper agency with the ability to flex its own muscles, make its own decisions, and produce results. That's their only requirement. I'm there. I'll be the first to applaud Christian Dubé. I think he's got the wherewithal to do it.
I can't be the only one who's thinking about the recent disaster at the SAAQ, though, when they tried to change systems, Tom.
Well, I mean, that's exactly it. And I thought it was so unseemly to spend a minute on the SAAQ, because we talked about it for the past couple of days. But I thought it was absolutely unacceptable. And it was beneath the dignity of a sitting premier for Mr. Legault to so clearly single out the president of the SAAQ. His name is Denis Marcellet. And if anybody's interested, I invite them to go online, because they'll find on the official website of the Quebec government when he was named by the CAC to head up the SAAQ, they publish your CV. I don't know of a single person in the Quebec government who has been the deputy minister or the head of organizations for so many different areas of the government of Quebec. I've known Denis Marcellet for 30 years, going back to when he was the president of the Chamber of Notaries. He is an outstanding administrator. And in the middle of his answers in the National Assembly today, Legault singled him out. He says, once the dust is settled on these things and we've got everything figured out, then I'm going to sit down and look at the performance of the president. I'm sorry, you don't do that. And then he repeated it during his press conference. So it was a way of putting a big circle, a big target around Denis Marcellet, so people won't look at the two ministers involved, who are Eric Kerr and Geneviève Guilbeault. And I'm sorry, in our system of government, you know who's responsible? Ministers. And who's responsible for Denis Marcellet and the sack? The people who put him there. Who was that? François Legault. So I just found it so cheap and unacceptable. Sorry for the rant, but it really did get under my skin what he did today.
Yeah. So cheap shot, and that's, as you're suggesting, not the right way to have done this. Why not say you'll have an investigation first and, see where the chips fall and then decide who to single out?
Exactly. But he's already, I know Marcellet enough to know he's probably going to shrug his shoulders and say, message received, and he might just walk away from it to avoid having to be dragged through this anymore. But this guy really absolutely did not deserve to be treated that way. It was just a mugging and totally unacceptable.
Tom, last thing real quick. So today, Justin Trudeau out in Nova Scotia, Michelin spending $60 million some odd dollars there to build a plant. The other day, it was in St. Thomas, Ontario, Volkswagen, the biggest investment in the auto sector in this country's history. And I look at these two announcements and said, wait, one in Ontario, one in Nova Scotia. The odd man out here seems to be Quebec.
Well, Champagne, the minister, who's in charge of lots of things economically, federally, i.e. giving out taxpayers' money to private companies. I'm sure that he's working on something really big shoe with our friend Fitzgibbon, because as they start ramping up to the next federal election, obviously they've got to have something huge to announce here. I do find that it was a bit surprising that Champagne made that big announcement for Ontario in the middle of the electric auto show here in Montreal. And by the way, it was picked up immediately in all of the French media. And really, he made that announcement here, almost as if he was rubbing Quebec's nose in it, because, of course, the electric vehicles and in particular the batteries, and Quebec has a lot of the natural resources involved. The lithium mines that are going to be developed here. So it's a bit of a shot against Quebec that so much is being given. By the way, we know that the Michelin plant is in the order of $300 million federal dollars to help them expand and create a lot of jobs there, much needed in Nova Scotia. But we don't know the real number for Ontario and the Volkswagen battery plant, but I'm told that it is billions with an S.
And from what I saw yesterday, apparently the biggest investment in that province in the auto sector ever, according to the minister. So I don't know. My reaction was,
jobs there, but nothing here. Oh, they're trying to say that maybe they'll buy some of the parts here, but that doesn't wash.
Like, how come Quebec didn't get any of that? All right, Tom Mulcair. Tom, thank you.
Talk to you tomorrow.